Tensions have been rising along Israel's northern border with Lebanon since the attacks by Hamas on October 7th. Hezbollah and Israeli troops have been increasingly exchanging fire. And as Chris Brown reports, this is where an escalation in the conflict could happen.
On Israel's northern border, there's already a shooting war with Hezbollah in Lebanon, but it's intermittent and low intensity. Should the war against Hamas escalate, this could be the flashpoint. Our crew has come to the fruit farm of Nadav and Adam Ishak, where the border with Lebanon is under 2 kilometers away.
Everything to the right of that wall, that's Lebanon.
Yes.
They told us Hezbollah fires artillery in this direction daily. And in the village right next door, this strike hit today, says Israel's military. This was their response. We feel like they're testing us because they see civilians and they shoot a missile, he said. While both Hamas and Hezbollah are backed by Iran, Hezbollah is far more powerful. Its leadership boasts of having more than 100,000 fighters and long-range missiles powerful enough to destroy high-rises in Israeli cities. The possibility of opening new fronts against the Zionist regime is inevitable, said Iran's foreign minister in an ominous warning. Here on the border, the fear is that Hezbollah has already laid the groundwork for an attack by digging tunnels under the Israeli defenses. Several were found near here a few years ago. It's terrifying when you realize the ability that they have to come in here.
It's eerily quiet here. This is one of 28 communities along the border with Lebanon that Israel's military has ordered evacuated, but not everyone can leave.
The brothers say they have to stay because someone needs to run the farm. Their families have moved to a university dorm an hour south. Idan, Nadav's wife, says she hears his anxiety when they talk on the phone.
I think that it's the first time in my life that I heard from him that he's afraid also.
Although it's safer here for their children, she says she's conflicted about leaving.
If everyone from the border would go to the center of Israel, what would happen in the borders? So the center would be the border.
The family keeps a reminder of the last time Hezbollah and Israel fought in 2006.
Katyusha.
Part of a rocket that destroyed buildings on their farm, and they hope this is the only missile they'll ever see. Chris Brown, CBC News, near the Israel-Lebanon border.
Hezbollah is, of course, backed by Iran, and it is one of the most powerful paramilitary forces in the Middle East, if not the world. It operates in southern Lebanon and is continuing to engage in minor exchanges with the Israel Defense Forces. But so far in this current conflict, it is showing relative restraint. Matthew Levitt is a counterterrorism and intelligence expert at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. In 2008 to 2009, he served as a U.S. State Department counterterrorism advisor to the Special Envoy for Middle East Regional Security. And he joins us now to discuss the potential of Hezbollah's role in this war. So Matthew, we're seeing more fire being exchanged by Israel and Hezbollah. The Israeli military released footage showing strikes on what it says are Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. What's your assessment of the current situation on that border?
My assessment is that we are at a precipice of potentially very, very dangerous miscalculation. For some time now, Hezbollah has been trying to find ways to engage Israel militarily such that Israel wouldn't retaliate in full scale, which Hezbollah has not wanted. They infiltrated a terrorist into Israel several months ago. They've been launching a drone at the offshore gas field and other things. In the context of the Hamas war, Hezbollah has felt some pressure to get involved, and they've done things both themselves, firing anti-tank guided missiles into Israeli communities, allowing Hamas operatives in Lebanon to shoot rockets or trying to approach the fence themselves. But now some Hezbollah operatives have been killed in Israeli retaliation, and things are getting very, very hot. And it's not just in Lebanon. Other Iranian Shia militias are doing the same. The ship in the Red Sea just shot down a rocket fired north by the Houthis. It's unclear if that was being fired at southern Israel. An American contractor was killed today in rocket firing by Iraqi Shia militias at U.S. bases. There's a series of places where Iran and its proxies are heating things up. and the potential for Hezbollah to either miscalculate, to hit something by mistake, or to feel, I just need to do this because otherwise Hamas is going to be destroyed. There's too many ways this can go south.
Overshadowing all of this, or influencing all of this, I should say, is this deadly explosion at the hospital in Gaza. Israel says they didn't do it. The U.S. says Israel did not do it. The Arab world does not seem to believe it. So how is that influencing Hezbollah decision-making right now?
This is a crucial issue. The U.S., the United Kingdom, Israel have all come forward saying this was definitively a misfired Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, which is a double war crime, firing rockets at Israeli civilian communities, using Palestinians as human shields, and then misfiring. What this has done, however, is created tension throughout the region, where throughout the region, people believe what they want to believe. They believe the incendiary rhetoric coming from Iran, from the Hezbollah leaders and others. And there is now tremendous grassroots swelling anger. And Hezbollah is going to feel that not only as support, but maybe even as some pressure to act and to do more against Israel.
Okay, so if they do more, compared to Hamas, this is a much more formidable fighting force, said to have more than 100,000 fighters, perhaps, and hundreds of millions of dollars in weapons and funding from Iran annually. If Hezbollah does enter this conflict, how does that change things on the war front?
So, Hamas is the baby brother. Hezbollah is the big threat with 150 to 200,000 rockets. It could do a tremendous amount of damage. My assessment still is that if Hezbollah gets involved more, it's going to try and do it in such a way as to still stay short of full-scale warfare. It understands that while Hamas had the benefit of surprise, Hezbollah will not have the element of surprise. It understands that the Israelis have been prepping for the next war with Hezbollah since 2006, and they understand that they're much better prepared this time. And they also see 2 U.S. aircraft carrier groups in the Eastern Med. The president has made it clear he does not want those to necessarily have to engage. But if anything happens and there's a sense that Israel is facing any type of existential threat, they are there and they are there to be called upon. And the question is, does Iran, does Hezbollah want to risk opening this up into a wider regional war and have to face the combined firepower of Israel and the United States, and potentially, if it gets really bad, others as well? Israel has had visits from the leaders of France, the leaders of the UK, all of whom have doubled down on Israel's right to defend itself, reminding the world that this is a Hamas war initiated by Hamas with a cross-border raid, killing some 1,400 Israelis, kidnapping 200-something people, including foreigners from almost 40 countries. This is something that Iran and its proxies have brought on the region. And the question is, how far do they want to take it? Do they understand, as they should, that Israel and its allies are willing to fight back?
Do you think that's enough of a deterrent? We saw the reaction to President Biden's visit to the region and his use of the word "the other team" and the kind of the outrage that has caused. So there is a domestic political sentiment in every country in that region that has been affected by this. Is the fleet presence, is the president's words to stay out of it, do you think that's enough of a deterrent at this point based on the anger and rage that we're seeing?
You have to put these in 2 boxes. One is the deterrent against the militants who might actually start doing things. The other is the rage on the street and what type of violent protests or other things they might do. Violent protests of the type we saw the night of the horrific and tragic Islamic Jihad failed missile strike that hit the hospital. Those can be very, very dangerous, but those are a much lesser issue than a full-scale war with thousands upon thousands of rockets. That's a decision that militant groups and countries are going to make. I do think they understand the deterrent. I don't know that would be enough. I do hear other voices in the region. Prince Turki Al Faisal in Saudi Arabia, who does not have a formal position, but once head the Saudi intelligence agency, was the ambassador to the United States, the ambassador to the UK, still a very prominent figure. He issued a commendation condemning Hamas for putting Israeli-Saudi normalization off kilter, and blamed Qatar for funding Hamas. And not a word about Israel, but both negative against Hamas. I think there is a desire by the moderate states in the region to try and tone this down. They're going to do it slowly and carefully because they don't want the anger on the street to be directed at them. But I think if Hezbollah initiates something new, no one, least of all the Lebanese, are going to be happy about being dragged into it.
Right, and Hezbollah, should they do this, you mentioned rockets. I mean, Hamas has rockets, but the ones Hezbollah has better range, better accuracy, just a higher tech weapon. So with all the uncertainty and the moving parts in the region, Matthew, what are you looking at for next to see potentially where this may go?
The issue with Hezbollah is not just the sophistication of some of their rockets. The vast majority are not kind of super smart rockets, but they have at least several hundred that are. There's also the numbers and the ability with numbers to overwhelm even the Israeli four-tier missile defense system. So I'm watching very, very carefully, not only what is actually happening along the border, but what people are saying. We have not yet heard a big speech from Hassan Nasrallah. He can't make a speech that doesn't either say escalate or de-escalate. I am watching what people are saying on social media and elsewhere. I'm concerned about Iran and Hezbollah choosing not to do something directly, but trying to fan the flames and convince people to go carry out acts of violence on their own. And that could be in the region, that could be elsewhere. Finally, you're watching to see how the Israelis are deployed. They are deployed big in the north, not only in the south. They are committed for this. And as one senior Israeli put it to me, at the end of the day, we have no choice. We can't afford to lose.
Right. And just as a point of clarification for people who don't know this issue as well as you, Hassan Nasrallah is the Secretary General of Hezbollah. So when he speaks,
right.
that will be a very important thing. What he says publicly will tell us a lot.
I think so.
All right. Matthew Levitt with the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Canada has changed its travel advisory for Lebanon, warning citizens not to travel to that country. Christy Maddy is a Canadian teacher at a university in Lebanon. She joins us now to speak about the reaction there as the Israel-Hamas war rages on. Christy Maddy, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, David.
This situation, it doesn't seem to be de-escalating or getting any better, and you're there in Lebanon. You're right next door. How are you feeling as you watch this all unfold?
Actually, I'm feeling like all Lebanese people are feeling right now. We're a bit anxious. We're worried that this might escalate. It's been going on for the past over 12 days now, and right now there's bombing back and forth in South Lebanon. So we live in anticipation. We don't know if there's a war that's going to erupt or it's not going to erupt, but we're hoping that things de-escalate. We're hoping that, they don't escalate this further and it doesn't break out into a war, because I don't think anyone wants a war right now.
Well, certainly that is the big concern, right? And the U.S. has told all of its citizens to get out of Lebanon as fast as they can, and the Canadian government is telling Canadians to leave if possible. And it's changed its travel warnings to say don't go to Lebanon. So you're there. What's your reaction to hearing all of this?
Yes, I am here. I'm in a safe place. First, I'm glad I'm Canadian. I'm glad that I belong to a country that cares for the safety of its citizens and rushes to our aid and our rescue whenever we need that. I might add that I was also here in Lebanon in 2006 when there was war in Lebanon as well. I chose not to leave. I did not get evacuated by the Canadian government at the time. It was a personal choice because, as I said, I feel that I am in a safe space. Otherwise, I would not risk my life. Especially because my entire family is in Canada, my kids, my husband, my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister.
How do they feel about the fact that you're staying?
I know that they're worried. Of course they are. They are anxious. I mean, when, family that is abroad, they're glued to their phones. They worry more because they are not on the ground with me right now, and they want me to be safe. They always check on me. They're worried. Don't go to Beirut. Don't go to other parts of the country. Stay where you are. So and my job is very close. So, and I live far, as I said. But
right.
they are definitely worried, just like any other Lebanese living abroad. All Lebanese Canadians are worried for their families. Some, unfortunately, cannot bring their families to Canada because they don't have the nationality, or, they cannot evacuate them anywhere.
You mentioned that you stayed in 2006 when Canada was evacuating. If I remember correctly, Prime Minister Stephen Harper sent his plane that he uses to get people out of Lebanon.
Yes, and they left by boat as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a chaotic time. The warning this time, though, seems to be, as I understand what the Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, has said, is you should get out while commercial flights are available, because there's no guarantee they're going to be able to mount anything, given the volatile nature of what's happening there. Does that make you reconsider what's happening at all?
I am waiting for, any developments that might pop up soon, although there is advice that we should leave because there are fears that the airport might close. Lebanon is very small. There's only one airport, and the airport is located in Beirut. So there are fears that the airport might get bombed. For instance, the airport of Damascus and Aleppo both got bombed. So there are these fears. Yes, I would definitely consider if there is more escalation. Right now, it's limited to South Lebanon. So there is nothing around here. Although I can tell you, David, that a lot of people are preparing for the worst. So they're getting medicine, food supplies, filling up their cars with fuel, because there are fears that this might escalate. We don't know when and if it might escalate. However, such things on the South Lebanon border, and I don't mean to undermine it, they've happened every now and then.
Right.
So as Lebanese people, we've lived with this for the past, I might say, 20 plus years. So yeah, we don't know, really.
So
that's the reality.
I know conflict at that border. I don't. The word routine is maybe not appropriate, but it's not unusual to see things happening at the southern border of Lebanon, the northern border of Israel. So what would it have to look like for you to make the decision, maybe it's time to go back to Canada?
You see, I have two homes. I have Lebanon and I have Canada. And I just came back from Canada. I came back in September. I had been there for 10 months. When I describe my life, I say I cannot live a year without being in Lebanon, and I cannot live a year without being in Canada. I'm Canadian as much as I am Lebanese, and I'm Lebanese as much as I'm Canadian. What it would take is for it to escalate a bit further, because I'm a teacher. I'm committed to my job, to my students, and I don't want to leave before I have to, and I want to do the responsible thing, both towards my country and towards both countries, towards Lebanon and towards Canada and towards my job. I would not want to be evacuated except on my own personal expense, as I have always done, because I feel, it's a responsibility that I have to take upon myself.
Okay, well, Christy Maddie, I hope it doesn't escalate to the point that you have to make these difficult choices. So thank you. Stay safe, and thank you so much for speaking with us.
Can I just add one thing that I think everyone in the region, on either side of the border, just the regular people want peace, and war is never the solution. War has never been the solution. It just causes bloodshed and heartache and a lot of anxiety and the feeling that you don't know where safety is. So I just hope cool minds prevail and we reach a peaceful solution, because that's what the people want on either side of the border.